Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. Welcome back. We're going to be reading part 4 in Living Untethered by Michael Singer. And part 4, we're going to be talking about our thoughts and dreams. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start off, this is chapters 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, but we will only be reading the first 2 to 3 depending on the length. So we're starting out with chapter 16, and it's titled The Abstract Mind. Fortunately, your mind has a layer beyond the layers of the personal mind. It has been called the impersonal mind, the abstract mind, or even the purely intellectual mind. This layer of mind is not distracted by the inner commotion caused by your samskaras. It is free to soar unhindered into the pure brilliance and creativity of a higher expression of mind. This higher layer of your mind, which we call the abstract layer, is what allows you to build rocket ships, develop air conditioning, and discover the existence of atoms. The abstract mind is what truly makes humans great. You are not limited to experiencing only through your senses. You are free to explore in the realm of your pure intellectual mind. Your mind can take you pretty much anywhere. Do you want to build rovers that can go to Mars so you can explore the planet on the internet? Wonderful. You can do that because your mind is capable of expanding beyond the limit of your senses and the limit of your personal thoughts. Mind can operate at many levels. The question is, what are you doing with it? Intellectually, you have the ability to take images from outside and do creative things with them. You are free to use your mind's power to be artistically abstract and intellectually logical. A perfect example of the latter would be Einstein's thought experiments. Einstein came up with many of his greatest theories sitting in his armchair and reasoning out very abstract concepts. This is a great tribute to the power of our minds. It is a far cry from getting lost in your personal thoughts and making these thoughts about yourself the total meaning of your life. Once you create thoughts about what you want and don't want and how to force the world to be that way, you will never be okay inside. You will lose much of the great power of abstract thought because you cannot abstract from yourself. Life will become a battle between reality and your mental preferences. This use of mind is called the personal mind because its thoughts are all about you and your concepts, views, and preferences. The teaching of mindfulness, which center awareness on the current moment, encourages you to focus on something other than the personal mind. Focusing on the moment is one way to get your consciousness off its incessant addiction to the personal. Another way to transcend the personal mind is by using your intellectual mind to create and do things that are not personal in nature. This includes being an engineer who reasons out problems or a medical researcher who studies diseases and how to cure them. Artistry, computer science, mathematics, all of these are examples of beautiful uses of the impersonal mind. The mind is great. It's not just supposed to be used for storing all of your personal preferences and then thinking the whole world is supposed to match what you stored. The outside world is simply not going to magically match what you've stored in your mind. In fact, it is not very intelligent to expect it to. Is it really intelligent to devote your life to fighting with life so it aligns with your past good and bad experiences? How can you enjoy life if you are always worrying and struggling and that is getting in your way? That's what all of our societies are doing, and that's what almost every human being has done. People just haven't evolved enough to learn not to do that. Rich people, poor people, sick people, healthy people, married people, single people. They are all bound in the same way. If they get what they want, they are relatively okay. If they don't get what they want, they suffer to a greater or lesser extent. Fortunately, you do not have to live this way. There is a much higher way to live life, but it requires that you change how you interact with your mind and with life unfolding before you. To understand this transformation, let's first take a look at how you even decided what you want and don't want. If you pay attention, you will see that your past experiences determine your preferences. You didn't just make it all up from scratch. Your views, opinions, and preferences are formulated based on data from your past. For example, let's say you are totally secure in your love relationship until you hear that your friends had a breakup and they are miserable. All of a sudden, you start worrying about your own relationship. You were fine before you heard about your friends, but now you're not. You stored the concept of a breakup inside your mind, even though it really had nothing to do with you. You took it personally. Is it possible to process the information without it getting stuck in your mind? Of course it is. Your friends had a problem and they shared it with you. It came to your mind, passed through your consciousness, and you experienced the feeling of compassion. The interaction actually made you a greater being. You were able to fully absorb the reality of life without getting it stuck in your mind. If you want to recall it later, you can willfully restore it from memory in all its glory, but it will not keep coming back up by itself. Since it did not get stuck in the conscious mind or shoved into the subconscious, it will not adversely affect your life. It actually made you a better person because you were able to handle the experience. On the other hand, if you were not able to process the experience without resisting it, it will stay stuck in the conscious mind and create havoc. If you really resist it, it will get shoved down into the subconscious where it will fester and spread its disturbance throughout the mind. In either case, you are storing what you are afraid of in your mind. If you do this, you will be afraid of your own thoughts. How could you not be? You made a collection of unpleasant thoughts in your mind, and they're going to keep coming back up. Now, in order to live in there, the analytical aspect of mind must be utilized to figure out what needs to happen outside for you to be okay. This is where preferences come from. They are simply attempts to use outside events to solve the fact that you are not doing well inside. This results in the constant practice of judging everything that's unfolding based on your preferences. It's easy to see why people don't agree with each other. Nobody else has had the experiences that came in through your eyes. What you have inside your mind is completely different from what others have inside of their minds. It can't be otherwise because the data in your mind came from the experiences you had. Nobody else had those experiences, not even close, not your spouse, your children, or your friends. Not only were your past experiences different, but you processed them differently. We can certainly force ourselves to conform to other ways of thinking in order to gain acceptance, but that just makes living inside all the more complicated. You not only have your default way of thinking resulting from your stored past impressions, but now you must suppress parts of that in order to conform to the group mindset. No wonder it gets messy in there. You are holding all that personal stuff inside your mind, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The inevitable result is that if the moment in front of you happens to align well with your stored patterns, you feel great. You feel open, excited, enthused. If it doesn't align well with your stored patterns, you get upset. You immediately close, get defensive, and maybe even get depressed. Now we're back to the question we asked earlier. What's it like living in there? Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. God made it that way. You did this. You were given free will, and what you did with your free will was make a mess out of your mind. Instead of being in awe that the moment in front of you even exists, you fight with it to make it match what you want. I'm sorry, I misread. It is not because God made it that way. You did this. I thought that didn't sound right. My apologies. All right, chapter 17. Serve mind or fix it. All your preferences exist because you stored experiences from the past inside your personal mind. This makes it difficult to live in there, but instead of fixing it, you double down and try to satisfy your preferences. I want to feel good, and the way to feel good is by getting the house I want. The way to feel good is by owning the car I've always wanted. The way to feel good is by finding a better relationship. This one's not doing it for me. These attempts to compensate for your blockages are at best short-lived because you are not actually getting rid of the blockages. The foundational choice we have in life is either constantly control life to compensate for our blockages or devote our lives to getting rid of our blockages. The fact is, we stored these samskaras inside. We shouldn't have, but we did. Now, instead of getting rid of them, we expect the world to adapt to them. We know it's not going to happen by itself, so we use the personal thoughts layer of mind to analyze how the world needs to be to match what we want. We're brilliant at figuring out how to make someone become attracted to us or to change things so they better fit our limitations. Almost everything we do is governed by this personal thoughts layer of mind. It is the same analytical power of mind that Einstein used to see E equals mc squared. But you're using it to figure out what to do if someone's talking badly about you. This entire layer of mind intellectualizes and analyzes your stored patterns to try to figure out how the world needs to be so that when it comes in, it will feel good and never bad. That is why you tend to have so much trouble making decisions. You're trying to figure out how each choice will make you feel later. Where do I want to live? Should I change jobs? I need to figure this out. You're trying to mentally conceptualize how the proposed action will match the patterns you've stored inside. You don't even think twice about it. Of course that's what I'm doing. What else would I do? How about live in reality and enjoy the moments that are unfolding in front of you? That's what else you can do. Use your mind to be creative, inspiring, and do great things. Don't let the mind always be thinking about itself and what it wants. Learn to enjoy life as it is, instead of limiting the ways you can enjoy it to serve your past impressions. The self-centered, analyzing layer of the mind is the worst. It is the model you build about how everything and everybody needs to be for you to feel okay, including the weather tomorrow. It better not rain tomorrow, I'm going camping. Now you're getting upset about the weather. You have no control over the weather, yet it's bothering you. It's not just the weather. The driver in front of you is going 10 miles an hour below the speed limit. Let's watch your mind. This is ridiculous. I don't have time for this. What's wrong with them? They're supposed to be in the slow lane. Turns out the problem is not how the person in front of you is driving. The problem is what your mind is doing about how the person in front of you is driving. Eventually, you catch on that you've developed an entire intellectual model of how every single thing needs to be. How people should behave, how your spouse should be dressed when you're going out, even how much traffic there should be. You honestly believe, pretty much every single thing. You honestly believe that what you made up is how it should be. The truth of the matter is, that's absurd. There is no way what you made up in your head based upon your very limited past experiences has anything to do with what's supposed to be happening in the real world. Think about it for a moment. What you want the weather to be has nothing to do with what it's going to be. The weather has to do with meteorology, not your preference system. If you really want to know why it had to rain on your day off, go study science. A wise person realizes that the world is not going to unfold the way they want it to because it's not supposed to. No two of us agree how it's supposed to unfold, yet there's only one world out there. We best leave reality to either science or God, not to everyone's individual preferences. The world in front of you has the power of reality behind it. It is unfolding in accordance to the influences that made it be the way it is. And there are billions of influences going back billions of years. In contrast, you're just making up how it's supposed to be based on the impressions you held inside from your past. When reality doesn't happen the way you want it, you say reality is wrong. I don't like that. It should not have happened. Here's a technique for getting perspective. Put your mind in outer space and realize that there's nothing out there but 99.999% emptiness. There's just empty space between all the stars. Your nearest star after the sun is 4.2 light years away. To get an idea of how far that is, imagine holding a light beam above the earth. Now, let it go for 1 second. In that 1 second, the light circumnavigated the globe 7.5 times. Travel at that speed every second for 4.2 years and you'll reach the next star. There's pretty much nothing but empty space in between. We call it interstellar space. That's how it is between all the stars all over the universe. How would you like to be out there and see nothing? Because that's what 99.999% of the universe is. What you get every day is a miracle. There are colors, shapes, and sounds, along with all the amazing experiences you're given with each passing moment. Yet all you do is say, no, it's not what I want. Of course it's not what you want. That's not the point. Instead of comparing the moment in front of you against the preferences you've built up in your mind, why don't you compare it against nothing, since that's what makes up 99.999% of the universe. If you do this, you'll find yourself being thankful that you get to have your daily experiences. They are certainly better than empty space. That's how a wise person lives. The alternative is to suffer because things are not the way you want. Previously, we discussed Buddha's first noble truth. All of life is suffering. Now we get to the second noble truth. The cause of suffering is desire. In other words, the cause of suffering is preference. Deciding how you want things to be and getting upset when they're not that way. Not surprisingly, it turns out Buddha was right. Events don't cause mental or emotional suffering. You cause yourself mental and emotional suffering about the events. If you are not doing that, things are the way they are. Always remember, it took 13.8 billion years of everything unfolding exactly as it did for the moment in front of you to be the way it is. A perfect example of how we cause ourselves mental suffering is how we view our bodies. When you're young, you look a certain way. You get older and you look another way. What's wrong with that? It's just miraculous. You watch your body change all by itself. That is a natural process and it should not cause suffering. Likewise, in this life, you go through many different experiences. They should not cause suffering. Experiences are not suffering. They are experiences. But if you decide how you want them to be and they're not that way, then you suffer. Suffering is caused by the contrast between what you mentally decided you wanted and the reality unfolding in front of you. To whatever degree they don't match, you suffer. What we're exploring here is deeper than most people want to go, but it is the truth. You have set up in your mind what you like and what you don't like based on your past impressions. Now you honestly believe the world should be that way. Obviously, that's not a belief founded in reality. As long as you do that, you're going to have a very hard time in life. We now have a pretty clear view of the personal mind. We have seen that the first layer of the mind is the one that receives the senses. The second layer is the samskaras we did not let pass through as life flowed into us. Based on this foundation, we built very personal thought patterns of like and dislike and how to get life to unfold the way we want. These impressions of what we liked and disliked are so powerful that our consciousness becomes completely absorbed in the model of life they generate. In fact, we focus on it so completely that it forms our self-concept. I am the one who likes this, doesn't like that, and I'm dead serious about getting what I want. We are so distracted by this model that we're not even aware of being back there watching all this. But we are. How else would we know it's going on? All right, let me just take a look at the next chapter. Or I should say chapters, because some of them are quite short. I think we can do one more. So chapter 18, willful and automatic thoughts. You're in there and you have the ability to create a thought. Right now, say hello inside your head. Say it over and over again. It's doing it, isn't it? If you had not purposely said that word, it would not have been in your mind, would it? You clearly have the ability to willfully make your mind create thoughts. In general, there are two very distinct types of thoughts, willful and automatic. The first one we'll explore, as its name indicates, is a thought that you willfully create. You can willfully create thoughts in two different ways. You can create auditory thoughts through the voice inside your head talking to you saying hello, or you can create visualizations in your mind's eye. For example, right now, visualize a boat. Do you see it in your mind? Now visualize a bigger boat and an even bigger one. See the Queen Mary in there. That boat would not be in there unless you purposely willed it to be. Once again, we see that you clearly have the ability to make your mind create thoughts. There's another category of thoughts besides willful thoughts, and that's automatic thoughts. These are the thoughts you did not purposely decide to create. They just pop into your mind on their own. You may pay attention to them once they're there, but you did not willfully decide to create them like you did with the boat. The vast majority of your thoughts are automatically generated. You're driving down the street enjoying your day, and your mind starts creating thoughts by itself. Why did I have to say those things? If I hadn't said them, we might still be together. Well, that's unlikely. We were having problems before that. You're not willfully making your mind create these thoughts. This is that voice inside your head talking on its own. If you doubt that this is happening by itself, try stopping it for any length of time. The mind stream of thoughts will return in no time. Let's say somebody was supposed to call you at 3 o'clock and by 3:30 they still haven't called. What happens during those 30 minutes? Your mind creates thoughts by itself. You are not willfully deciding, I want to worry about this. Okay, mind, start creating worrisome thoughts. Did he have an accident, or is he standing me up? You're not doing that. Your mind is doing it all by itself. They're not even meaningful thoughts. They're destructive thoughts. They are ruining your 30 minutes. The question becomes, if you're going to end up waiting 30 minutes for the person to call, why do you want to make yourself miserable? Well, technically you're not. Your mind is doing it for you. If you pay attention, you will see that the mind creates most thoughts on its own. They go on all the time. Just watch yourself in the shower. Watch yourself when you're driving. Watch yourself whenever you take a break from work. You'll see the mind is constantly creating thoughts. Even when someone is talking to you, the words may be coming in through your senses, but you're not totally listening to them. You're also listening to your mind's reaction to what's being said. You're thinking, I don't agree with that. I would never do it that way. Your mind just made the discussion all about you instead of what the person is saying. If you watch those automatically generated thoughts, you'll see they range anywhere from funny to frightening. Regardless, is it so smart to have all that noise going on inside your head all the time? If you bother to pay attention to it, you're going to find out that it's not. Where do those thoughts come from? Why does the mind create thoughts by itself without you willfully doing it? We've actually already discussed this. When you store a samskara, an unfinished mental and emotional pattern, that pattern will not sit quietly inside of you. Anything that ever got stored inside your mind because you resisted or clung to it is trying to release. It's an energetic reality, like Newton's law of motion. The energy cannot stay in there unless you continuously assert an opposing force of will to keep it in there. That's why it keeps coming back up. Mommy yelled at you 25 years ago and that hurt you. Now suddenly somebody mentions their mother yelling and all these emotional and mental issues come up inside of you. Why? That blocked energy is always trying to come up every single millisecond. Just like in a dammed up river, the blockage is trying to release its pent up energy. It is not comfortable staying inside you, so you have to constantly assert your willpower to hold it down. How much energy are you wasting keeping all this garbage inside? Just as your body is always trying to expel impurities, so your mind is trying to get these mental impurities out. That is what's happening when your mind creates its own thoughts. Sometimes you will be able to trace those thoughts back to their source. Other times, it's not so easy. The important thing to realize is there's always a reason why your mind creates one thought versus another. Let's go back to the example of someone being late with a phone call. Your mind could begin creating worrisome thoughts about what you might have done to upset them so much that they aren't calling. But that is not the meaningful question. The meaningful question is, why did that possible reason come up versus any other? Turns out when you were 10 years old, somebody once said, "You're right, I didn't call you. It was on purpose because I didn't like what you did." Now, years later, when somebody doesn't call, that comes back up. What if years ago, when a person didn't call, the reason was they wanted to surprise you by personally coming by with a special gift? Now, when someone doesn't call, you feel all excited about what might happen next. These impressions get left inside you. They will continuously try to release pent-up energy, and they will end up determining the thoughts your mind creates on its own. This is the nature of almost all your automatic thoughts. They are not going to be seen as some important truth or great insight into what is really going on. They are simply your mind attempting to cleanse the patterns you have stored in there. Okay, so we will stop right there. And in our next video, we will read the last 2 chapters, 19 and 20. Thank you so much for joining me, listening to these videos, listening to me read. I love sharing these with people. I love helping people. This is the best way that I could think to reach out at this time. And I hope that you are enjoying it, taking something away from it. And until next time, as I always say, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I will see you again very soon for the last 2 chapters of this part of the book. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.